Alright guys, we've got to talk about Callisto Protocol's new marketing campaign. Right, so we're just under a month away from having this game. It's currently the 7th of November as of recording this. The team at Striking Distance Studios have their marketing campaign in full force now, which is normal and expected. This is their first game after all, and marketing is everything. However, and of course there would be a however, their recent docuseries on IGN has me kind of worried about the game that we're actually going to be getting on December the 2nd. Now, the whole point of these docuseries puff pieces, you know, the ones with the animated backgrounds and the text fading in on screen to introduce various members of the team and some movie veterans, is to exchange your flaccid state to a stimulated state of semi, and in some cases fully, ramping up excitement for the product. But guys, I'm not even sure I made it to semi, honestly. The more I see from the gameplay, the more I feel like I'm about to take a bite into a big shit sandwich, and it's sad to say. I did make a video a while ago about Callisto and how, although I thought it looks incredible in many ways, I'm cautiously on the fence about some of the ideas that seem to be front and center of the game. For one, the gravity glove. Now, I know I've been reassured multiple times that it has limited usage and you have to charge up much like the stasis mechanic in Dead Space, but the animation still looks stiff to me and looks weird in the footage that we've seen, and still quite OP. That's not the only animation that looks weird either. The mutation that enemies go through if you don't manage to shoot out their testicles, I mean the tentacles, looks awkward too. There are some gore effects that look bizarrely out of place next to other high-budget assets as well. The enemies' attacks look quite uninspired and predictable in my opinion. There's footage of a player doing some like boxing-style weaving with the dodge mechanic, and although that probably feels quite cool to do, I'm worried that after you've clocked a lot of hours in the game, these enemies will just become sort of like a chore, predictable and easy to dispatch of by way of perfect dodging and stun baton to the mush. The devs are saying that this is a 50% guns and 50% melee game, the stun rod baton thing being confirmed as the only melee weapon in the game, so it relies on a skill tree upgrade system to make it exciting enough to carry for the entire experience. If we are getting a 50% melee experience horror game but only getting one melee weapon, I really hope that the upgrades give some actual sense of progression, otherwise I fear it might just get old quickly with the aforementioned predictable enemy attacks and dodging. Now, I am fully aware, by the way, before you angry YouTube commenters pause this video and type out a White Knight defense rant, I'm aware that they aren't showing us everything yet. They're showing us some like basic enemies, I assume from like early parts of the game, as to not spoil the rest of it, and they're not going to be the most elaborate if they're early game monsters. I'm just basing this off of what I've seen so far, which is about every clip and video in existence because I do my research. Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. So make sure you like this video if you're picking up what I'm putting down, and subscribe too, because that'll really teach those rabid commenters who's boss. Then we move on to some of what the guys say in this docu-series. Now, they all seem to say different things about what horror is or should be, which makes me worry that there isn't a cohesive opinion amongst them about what type of horror they are actually delivering.
So atmosphere in a game like this is everything.
Atmosphere and mood is very, very important.
If you could put the universe into a tube, you'd end up with a very long tube, probably extending twice the size of the universe, because when you collapse the universe, it expands, and it would be, you wouldn't want to put it into a tube.
I was under the impression from the early footage we've seen, and Glenn Schofield himself talking about the game, that we're going to get a true successor to the Dead Space franchise with the moody atmosphere, great pacing, the dread of opening doors and wondering which type of mutated monstrosity will try and tear your heart out behind it, brutal dismemberment, etc, etc. But from watching this video, it either felt like the people talking were just giving us nothing burgers, or they were describing the most IGN 7 out of 10 review scored jump scare festival that I've ever even heard of.
Finally, that moment of release, that burst of horror, the jump scare, we get as sort of big a reaction as possible from the player.
Like, jump scares are almost seen as like a negative buzzword these days. It makes you think like the horror is cheap. It's like cheap horror, isn't it? It's like, oh, it's like a one and done. One and done. FNAF fans will probably say this is untrue, and hey, if you love jump scares as your main source of horror, more power to you, my feathered friend. More power to you, feathered friend. I can't talk. I personally think it's a trick that only works once. You know, like when you know it's coming, it's more just like an uncomfortable noise than anything else. The horror built up by a dreadful atmosphere is far more effective in unsettling the player, in my opinion. To be fair, Sam Witwer does say some good stuff, and it's not all off in this video. I've just been burned so many times before with anticipating a game, and I'm so defensive now. I'm not just so willing to just buy into it all. Now, I know there are a lot of eyes on this game. I know I'll likely get a negative like to dislike ratio by people who have convinced themselves that Glenn can do no wrong, or there's no way this game doesn't get a 9 out of 10 score and is the new big horror game. But when you see shit like this, or this, you have to kind of question it. To wrap this up, I'm still buying this game day one. I'm still going to keep my mind open as I go into it. I'm not trying to get contrarian clicks on this video for the sake of just being a contrary fairy. I honestly am worried about a few elements in this game. I hope it absolutely slaps and we have a brand new big budget horror game franchise to look forward to with sequels and whatnot. So what do you think then, guys? Are you pumped for the game still? Are you worried a little bit? Turned completely off, maybe? Let me know what you're thinking in the comments. And if you did like this video, then you're most likely, probably definitely, going to like that one. Yeah? So give that a click, and I'll see you when I'm looking at you. Thank you, guys.